Hollywood has always loved its tough guys, the kind of stars who light up the screen with a scowl, throw a punch like they mean it, and walk away without looking back. But here's the truth that publicity departments never wanted you to think about. Some of these men weren't just pretending. Their toughness wasn't a carefully polished studio image. It was real, born from war, hardship, and danger that would have broken most people. Some actors carried secrets so shocking that studio executives begged them to keep quiet. Others lived lives so reckless that even their most dangerous on-screen stunts couldn't match the risks they took off camera. And one actor, he had to downplay his own war record in a movie because audiences would never have believed the truth. So let's step beyond the Hollywood spotlight and uncover the 10 toughest actors in film history. Men who didn't just play heroes, they were them. 1. Audie Murphy, the boyish war machine. When you think toughest actor, maybe you imagine Clint Eastwood or John Wayne. But the most dangerous man to ever stand in front of a camera, he didn't look the part. Audie Murphy was just 5'5", baby-faced, and constantly underestimated. But this young soldier was the most decorated American combat veteran of World War II. At only 19, Murphy held off an entire German company alone, firing until he was out of ammunition, then calling in artillery on his own position before leading a counterattack. For this, he earned the Medal of Honor. And that was just one day in a career full of near-suicidal acts of bravery. By the time he was 21, Murphy had received 28 military medals, including every U.S. award for valor and several from France and Belgium. Historians estimate he personally killed between 240 and 300 enemy soldiers, numbers most entire units never reached. Hollywood didn't know what to do with him. He looked too innocent, too polite. Studio guards even refused him entry for a screen test, thinking the real Audie Murphy couldn't possibly look so ordinary. But beneath the quiet demeanor was a man who had lived through hell. When he played himself into Hell and Back, producers cut out some of his real accomplishments because audiences would have thought they were exaggerated. Imagine being too heroic for Hollywood to believe. Off-screen, Murphy was haunted by PTSD. He slept with a loaded pistol under his pillow, and his wife admitted that his nightmares sometimes turned him into someone she barely recognized. Yet in public, he was controlled, even gentle. Only once did that steel surface. When a businessman threatened him, Murphy's reaction was so fast and terrifying that witnesses swore they saw death in his eyes. Murphy didn't want to be a tough guy actor. He preferred comedies and romances. But the truth was always there. Behind his shy smile was one of the most lethal men Hollywood would ever know. But Audie wasn't the only man who brought a real war into the movies. 2. Charles Bronson, forged in coal dust and combat, before he was Hollywood's go-to vigilante, Charles Bronson, born Charles Bukinski, grew up in abject poverty. One of 15 children in a Pennsylvania coal mining family, Bronson started working in the mines at age 10. The harshness of that life carved itself into his body and face. That famous squint and rugged appearance, not an act. In World War II, Bronson served as a B-29 aerial gunner, flying 25 missions over Japan. He was wounded in combat and received a Purple Heart. Fellow soldiers described him as calm under fire, the kind of man you wanted nearby when chaos hit. After the war, Bronson scraped by with dozens of jobs: boxer, cook, onion picker. Even when he made it to Hollywood, directors cast him as thugs and convicts because he simply looked dangerous. And it wasn't just looks. Bronson fought like a man who had actually thrown real punches. Film historian Eddie Muller once said, "When Bronson throws a punch, it doesn't look choreographed. It looks like he knows how to hurt you." Co-stars confirmed his physical strength was shocking. Grabbing someone's shirt, his grip alone felt like iron. After his role in Death Wish, Bronson even received mafia threats. The studio offered bodyguards. He refused, saying, "I've lived too long, and been through too much to worry about people like that. That wasn't bravado. It was the quiet confidence of a man who had already survived worse. Bronson didn't play tough. He was tough, and everyone who worked with him knew it. But toughness doesn't always look like stone-faced silence. Sometimes it walks with a limp, hiding scars from real battlefields. 3. Lee Marvin, the Marine, who never stopped fighting. Lee Marvin was no stranger to violence. Before Hollywood, he was a Marine sniper in the Pacific, fighting in Saipan, one of the bloodiest battles of World War II. A machine gun wound severed his sciatic nerve, leaving him with a limp for life. He wore it like a badge, even though he hid it on screen. Unlike some veterans who sugar-coated their stories, Marvin told it straight. Any man who says he enjoyed combat is either a liar or a fool. That raw honesty bled into his acting. When Marvin played a violent man, it felt real, because it was. Off-screen, Marvin had a reputation for bar fights. The most infamous? He took on an entire crew of lumberjacks in Oregon. Even in his 40s, he held his own until police broke it up. The next day, he showed up to set bruised but ready to work. What made Marvin fascinating was his balance of brute force and intellect. He could debate Hemingway one moment, then demonstrate how to disable someone with military precision the next. Director Roger Ebert once said, "When Lee Marvin threatened someone in a movie, you believed it because he could actually do it." And yet, as intimidating as Marvin was, the next man on our list lived for danger in a way that made even Hollywood nervous. 4. Steve McQueen, the king of cool, the king of risk. Steve McQueen wasn't just cool. He was reckless, fearless, and obsessed with speed. His childhood was brutal, abandoned by his parents, abused, and constantly in trouble. At 14, he ran away. By 17, he was in the Marines, where his rebellious streak got him demoted 7 times. But McQueen also saved lives. During an Arctic exercise, when a tank broke through ice, he pulled 5 Marines to safety. After his service, he turned to acting, but he never left his love for danger behind. McQueen was a professional racer, not a celebrity hobbyist, a competitor who went head-to-head with pros and even placed second at Sebring, one of the most grueling endurance races in the world. He often raced under fake names, so studios couldn't stop him. On set, he refused stunt doubles. In The Great Escape, he did all the motorcycle stunts except the fence jump, which the insurance company banned. During The Towering Inferno, he insisted on working with real fire. Directors admitted the hardest part wasn't getting him to do dangerous stunts. It was stopping him from doing ones that could kill him. McQueen even had his brush with the Manson family. When he learned he was on their hit list, he didn't hire guards. He just started carrying a Magnum pistol everywhere. That was McQueen. No fear, no filter, just pure instinct. If McQueen chased danger, Kirk Douglas fought life itself and refused to lose. 5. Kirk Douglas, the man who wouldn't stay down. Kirk Douglas came from nothing. Born to poor immigrants, he grew up so hungry he once stole food from garbage cans. His escape route? Wrestling. Douglas earned a scholarship through sheer physical grit, then enlisted in the Navy during World War II. He carried that toughness into Hollywood. On Spartacus, he clashed with Stanley Kubrick, demanding realism in the fight scenes, and even doing dangerous stunts against advice. When he fell and injured himself, he was back on set in 2 days. But Douglas's true toughness showed later in life. In 1991, he survived a helicopter crash that killed 2 others. Years later, a stroke nearly destroyed his ability to speak. Most men his age would have faded quietly. Douglas fought through therapy, regained his voice, and even wrote a book about it. Burt Lancaster said it best. Kirk doesn't just act a scene, he attacks it. That was Douglas, a man who fought every battle life threw at him on screen and off. But toughness isn't always in size. Sometimes it's in speed, fists, and pure willpower. 6. James Cagney, the little guy who hit hardest. At just 5 feet 5, James Cagney wasn't intimidating by size, but growing up on the gang-filled streets of New York, he learned to fight because he had no choice. He boxed his way through survival, developing lightning speed and footwork that later made his fight scenes electric. In The Public Enemy, he shocked his co-star by actually smashing a grapefruit into her face. Unscripted, brutal, real. Cagney didn't always pull punches, and everyone in Hollywood knew it. Despite his fame for gangster roles, Cagney had a reputation off-screen. Bob Hope once joked, "Jimmy would drop you where you stood, then help you up and dust you off." That mix of danger and decency made him one of the most authentic tough guys ever to grace the screen. But from scrappy to colossal, the next legend towered over Hollywood in every way. 7. John Wayne, the Duke who refused to quit. John Wayne wasn't just a cowboy on screen. At 6 feet 4, he was built like one, too. Before acting, he played football at USC, worked as a prop man, and even did stunts for other actors. Unlike today's stars, Wayne did his own stunts well into middle age. Cracked ribs, he taped them and kept going. Shoulder torn, he filmed through the pain. After lung cancer surgery, where doctors removed a rib and part of his lung, Wayne shocked everyone by returning to stunt work just months later. The most chilling part of his career came during The Conqueror. Filmed downwind from nuclear test sites, 91 people from the production later developed cancer, including Wayne himself. Yet Wayne never slowed down. Whatever people thought of his politics, even his critics admitted, the man was physically tougher than almost anyone alive. But not all toughness is loud. Some wear it with cool detachment, hiding scars from a life on the edge. 8. Robert Mitchum. Too Cool to Care. Robert Mitchum's screen presence was effortless, but it wasn't acting. Orphaned young, he spent his teenage years riding trains as a Depression-era hobo. He boxed, dug ditches, mined coal, and even landed on a chain gang in Georgia. That hard life gave him the kind of toughness you couldn't fake. He carried women on set like they weighed nothing. When arrested for marijuana in 1948, he shrugged off 60 days in prison like it was nothing, emerging even cooler than before. Mitchum once said, "I have two acting styles, with a horse and without." That cynicism wasn't laziness. It was a man who'd already survived enough real drama to know Hollywood was just playtime. But toughness wasn't just American. It came from across the border, shaped by revolution and survival. 9. Anthony Quinn, warrior and poet. Anthony Quinn was born during the Mexican Revolution, surrounded by soldiers and chaos. His family fled to America, where he worked labor jobs from the time he was a child. Butcher's helper, boxer, construction worker, you name it, he did it. Quinn's strength was legendary. On Zorba the Greek, he carried logs that normally required 2 men, impressing even the extras who worked as local laborers. But unlike many tough guy actors, Quinn wasn't afraid to show emotion. He could cry on screen, argue philosophy, and still throw a punch that would knock you cold. Sophia Loren summed him up. Anthony had the body of a warrior and the soul of a poet. And finally, the man who combined epic roles with epic endurance. 10. Charlton Heston, endurance of a hero. Charlton Heston's toughness wasn't just physical, it was moral. He served as an aerial gunner in World War II, flying dangerous missions before he ever stepped onto a set. On screen, he punished himself for authenticity. For Ben-Hur, he trained relentlessly to drive chariots, performing most of the dangerous race himself. To play Michelangelo, he painted ceilings until his arms spasmed, refusing padding because he wanted the pain to look real. But Heston's toughness extended beyond films. He marched with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in the 1960s, taking real risks for civil rights. Later, he stood by his beliefs, even when unpopular. Agree with him or not, Heston embodied conviction in an industry built on compromise. Director Franklin Schaffner said it best. Many actors play heroes. Chuck was one. Hollywood loves its myths, but these men, they blurred the line between myth and reality. Some carried scars from war. Some carried fists hardened by street fights and boxing rings. Others lived reckless lives, daring death even off screen. What unites them is authenticity. When these men threatened someone on screen, you believed it because you knew deep down they could back it up. So the next time you watch a Hollywood tough guy throw a punch, ask yourself, is he acting or is he remembering? And here's the real question. Which of these legends do you think was the toughest of them all?